In this problem, we want to show for each supplier type or supplier category, we want to show for in each year and month, or for each month, I guess, for each category, I want to see total purchases. And here we have the definition for total purchases, and these are field names. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this down, and then this is my definition for total purchases. So I'm giving quite a bit of information here already. That's going to be as, and this is going to be in a select statement. So again, then in my output, I want to have category, year, month, and then this, and I want to have this as a total across many different rows. And then I also want to group by then these, because I want to find out for each category name or category, so like toy supplier, novelty supplier, and so on. And for each month where years matter, I want to get that information, and I want to find out what is the total purchases. So I'm going to group by these. Okay, and year and month is not something that exists anywhere, but I have something called an order date. So I'm going to need to do some sort of extract here to get the month and the year. So I'm going to do extract, and then I'm going to say year from, and I think it's order date, but let's go ahead and go to the ERD diagram and look up where is all this information located. So the supplier category name is from the supplier category table. The date we need is the purchase order date. So this is called order date over here in the purchase order header table. And I also need the expected outer, the unit price, and the ordered outers. So I need the purchase order line, I need the purchase order header, I need the supplier category, and to get to supplier category, I need the supplier category membership. I do have a supplier ID over here, so I need these 4 tables only. So let's see, this was called order date. I'm going to do something similar for month. I'm going to save this as a variable called year. And I have to put double quotation marks around this because I don't want to use a keyword year, since that means something. So I'm going to put quotation marks around these. And I do double quotation marks to define this as a name rather than as a string. And then I'm going to do month from order date, and I'm going to call that month. And the sum I think is fine already. Alright, so from what tables do we get all these fields? Well, the order date was from the order header table. So I'm going to start with the order header table. And I think it's called a purchase order header. Purchase order header. And then I'm going to join that with a purchase order detail or purchase order line. I also needed a membership table, supplier category membership table, and I also need the supplier category table. And now I need to join these on a bunch of things. I'm going to say the on statements to the right of these to keep it a little bit more compact. And then I'm going to say A order ID equals B order ID. And this is A, this is B, this is C, and this is D. Instead of on and repeating these, since the names are the same here, I could simply do using as a Postgres shortcut. But I'm going to keep this just for clarity. Okay, and then here, I'm going to be joining the supplier category membership to the purchase order header based on the supplier ID. And then finally, I'm going to join the supplier category and supplier category membership based on the supplier category ID. And then I have to define, I don't have to define where these are coming from because they only exist in one table. But for clarity purposes, I'm going to still define these. Right, let's go ahead and run that to make sure everything is fine before I add my group bys and things. Okay, so there's something wrong with purchases. Is this name here, total purchases? So I'm going to go ahead and put quotation marks around it. And then we see if it works. A order ID doesn't exist. So let's go on back to the RD diagram. So it's not order ID, it's purchase order ID. Then let's go ahead and run it again. Supplier category name must appear in group by, because I'm doing a sum. I'm going to go ahead and run it with the group by too. Year doesn't exist because I don't have quotation marks around them down here at the bottom. So the quotation marks, when I do with double quotation marks in Postgres, the quotation marks themselves are actually part of what I need to use to reference the variable I created. Alright, so here's some sort of list here with different supplier categories, years and months, but it's kind of unorganized a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and do an order by on this. And then these are quite a bit of decimals, so I want to round that. And notice that these are double precision, so I'm not going to be able to round that without casting it first to numeric. So I'm going to go ahead and cast this to numeric and then comma 2. So I'm getting the casting didn't work. I think I just casted the million there. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure I cast the entire sum here. And that worked better. So what I'm showing here now then is for each supplier category, what is the monthly purchases, total purchases. So here's clothing suppliers, all the different years, all the different months, and then total purchases. Novelty goods, I only purchased twice in January in 2013 and 2016. Not twice, but in 2 different months. We don't know how many transactions went into these. We could find out actually. Let's find out. And all I need to do is, and this is going to count the number of line items. We could count distinct order ID, I guess, to find out how many orders. And it's not order ID still, it's purchase order ID, of course. And it's ambiguous because it's in 2 different tables. So I'm going to say a purchase order ID. So now we know that we had, what do we say in this one? In 2013 in January, we had 19 orders that were novelty goods supplier type orders. And in 2016 in January, it was 5. And if we didn't do distinct here, we would find out how many line items were ordered. All right. But now let's go ahead and look at this, but let's do cube instead. So before we look at grouping sets and roll up and cube, I'm going to go ahead and delete this count. And then let's go ahead and run this with a grouping set, group by, and then grouping sets. So this is quite easy to change. That should be all I need to do. And then I run this. Now you can see that I'm getting clothing supplier and then null, and then the total purchases. I'm getting null, and year, and then I'm getting null, and month. So I'm getting each of the components by themselves and what were the total purchases. So again, this is like running 3 different group by queries and then unioning them together. So I would do group by only a supplier category name. I would do group by only a year and only a month. And then I would just stack them together and we'll get this result. Right, let's now change this or copy this and change it to a roll-up. When I do roll-up, now I'm getting for each supplier, for each year, for each month. And then I'm getting a first grand total for clothing supplier in this year. What is the total purchases? And then if I keep going down here, I'm gonna get for clothing supplier for all years and months. What is the total? And then I'm going to repeat this for the different types. And at the very bottom, I'm going to get a total of everything. So what's the total purchases for all years, all supplier types. Right, and then finally, I'm going to run cube. And cube, again, gives me the combination of grouping sets and roll up. So I'm getting exactly what I got before with the roll up. And then whatever grouping sets generated that was not part of that roll up, I'm going to get that too. So I'm getting what is the monthly sales for January across different years. I'm getting all these different combinations that I didn't get through the roll up.